Trrc Council, if we're ready to continue, please proceed with the new witness.
Thank you.
I, Lamin Mboge.
I, Lamin Mboge.
Do swear that.
Do swear that.
I'll speak the truth.
I'll speak the truth.
The whole truth.
The whole truth.
And nothing but the truth.
And nothing but the truth.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Thank you. See.
Mr. Mboge, welcome to the TRRC.
Thank you very much, Council.
You are called here today to testify in two capacities. The first capacity is your capacity as a victim, and the second is about rights violations you are aware of to have happened in this country, which, I mean, on the basis of your experience as a defense lawyer.
Very well.
And the third is for you to help us understand how the justice sector institutions were used to further the purposes or the objectives of former President Yahya Jammeh.
Okay.
On that issue, we expect you to talk about the interferences in the judiciary, intimidation of members of the legal profession, and things like that, including, of course, the roles played by various individuals, including judges and staff of the Attorney General's chambers.
Very well.
But before we start, I just want to advise you that it is a criminal offense under the laws of this country to provide false or misleading testimony to the TRRC. It's also an offense to lie on the oath. These are things that you are very familiar with.
Very well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Are you ready to proceed?
Yes, I am.
We would interpose interpretation in the Mandinka language.
Very well.
You agree?
I agree.
Fantastic. Mbojis are generally say.
It's on. It's on now.
It's on now.
It's on now. Thank you very much, Mr. Mboge.
You're welcome.
So, what are your full names, sir?
My full name is Lamin Mboge.
Ntomu Lamin Mboge leti.
What's your date and place of birth?
Date of birth is the 4th of March, 1968.
March karotil nani 1968 lumu nguluta.
Where were you born?
In the village of Nyamina Dankunku in the CRR, Central River Region.
Nguluta Nyamina Dankunku, Janjambure Tundokan, wala CRR region.
Mr. Mboge, you are advised to respond after the interpretation.
Thank you.
And tell us about your education.
Yeah, I started in Dankunku Primary School. And then proceeded to Armitage High School.
High School.
From 1980 to 85.
1980 kata 1985.
And then Gambia High School.
Natana Gambia High School.
At the sixth form.
Sixth form.
From 1985 to 1987.
1985 kata 1987.
For the advanced level.
Advanced level.
GCE.
GCE.
And then I taught in Gambia High School for 1 year.
Mfamanata karandiro ke Gambia High School Sanji Kili.
From 1987 to 1989.
1987 kata 1989.
And then I proceeded to the Usman Dan Fodio University in Nigeria,
Kata Usman Dan Fodio University Bato, Nigeria,
where I did my LLB combined honors.
Nana LLB honors bunya karanjele memu kafunyomo
Islamic and common law.
L'Islam ani loi fanna kotangol la karola.
And then I proceeded to the Nigerian Law School,
Kata Nigeria la loi karambumba
where I did my BL
from
1992 to 1993.
1992 kata 1993.
Your LLB must have been 3 years, correct?
4 years.
LLB program moning aita sanji saballa kodi.
4 years, from 1989 to 1992, but I was late. It was a late entry. Instead of September 88, I started in January 89.
Now follow 1989, kata 1993 sankono.
That explains the supposed discrepancy.
Exactly.
And what did you do when you returned to Gambia?
Ilang inara na muna ke biring muna tadan say su Gambia.
Well, I had 4 months of private practice with the doyen of the bar now, SBS Jane.
Prinsaitan nga sanji nani ke mfaye doko la ninya tonkaba me yalon ko be kiti bundala SBS Jane.
But
And SBS Jane would be Surahata B Jane.
Surahata BS Jane, yes, correct.
Surahata BS Jane.
And I was enrolled to the Gambian bar on the 17th of February 1994.
Nadamuta Gambia la kitindir bundala February 1994 sango konati tan wala.
What did you do after enrollment?
Yemuna ke biri yetu safe kaktara loyal lo kafubanyin kono.
Well, I started working on the bench as a magistrate from May 1994.
Nadamuta do kola ka fo bunda me bench man katara kitindiro la je kabo May 1994
up to August 1998.
for August
for 4 years.
August 1998 bari nga sanji nan le kewto.
Soon after your appointment as a magistrate, a serious rupture occurred in the constitutional system of this country.
Tariyarin ke biri yeto mbonke ke magistrate ori. Tariyarin ke falindri jaw natana ke men natana ke sababu falindo dol men kedna bankolwa buku banyin kono.
That is correct.
The July 22nd coup d'etat.
Men natana sababu July 22nd coup d'etat nying.
That is correct. I was serving on the bench.
How did that coup d'etat impact on your work as a magistrate in those early days?
Wo coup d'etat nying ay mun kole ya kullel sabu itelma kake kitindir lati wo jamano la ko nyin damu da kuto.
I was beginning my career as a magistrate because I started in May, and then June, July, there was this coup d'etat.
Rato ngada muta mekaro kono kanado ko datika tamandi baribitu nyin coup d'etat natake July 1994 sankono.
And soon after, in August, the foreign team was arrested and brought before me as a young magistrate to try them.
Biringo batala dron wati sutun kono yenata foroya la mulumuta yenati nyati limula ando du monde mo magistrate funding kewleti damuta lalu kono pour ngawlu kitindi.
I clearly remember that I was in court.
No hakilo yo mutabakele o lungo fam be kitid laro.
Not as counsel.
Manke nun consulti memu kitindir lati da.
But I was a newly minted barrister. So I accompanied Miss Amina Koka Jang,
State Council,
to watch.
Amina Koka Jang bulatano kang purka korosir lati.
I just carried her books,
Ngala bukol mutaye.
as would be expected of a newly minted barrister.
That is right.
And tell us about that case.
Kuma fanya okiti yoni na kuro.
I can safely say that was the first major impact on the civic society.
Nsafono wole mukuba foloti meye kusoto jamaa mulu la karola banko kanjang.
Because that was the first major case that came before the courts after the coup d'etat.
Wole mkiti ba foloti menata kiti bunda nyati ngulabirin coup d'etat botala.
And it was very tense situation.
Andong aketa kuleti meya lonko aketa kukole mutinu ngotumo.
Why would you say it was tense?
Yeah, because the atmosphere was just not yet ripe for those kind of cases.
Because
the coup d'etat just happened a few, I think 2 weeks after. There was a ban on publication of newspapers. And the Foroya refused to stop.
Would you say that this was the first blatant challenge to the authority of the AFPRC?
Yes, definitely, as far as I am aware, that was the first challenge to their authority.
Ntela mira rota ninna londoto wale mu bantambili foloti me ya lonko ya fintindi itella nyati lingola.
But apart from the fact that here was a challenge to the authority of a military government, which in spite of its claims of being soldiers with a difference, were prepared to hit back at any individual or institution that challenged its authority.
Silang afele jang kureta botala sojaro le bankota indun kabri be bankota e ko tol mu sojar mansa kundal de me yalon ko be fatala la inin dolu silang ifele ye bankota ifele ya damuta pour ka boy do ko bundal kan me yalon ko abe jama toral.
Why? What else was there that made the environment as charged as you described it?
Munena sababu ka fo ko ya fo nyame dandaw ni narana ke dandande me yalon ko alhalo nyimbe jawyari mbagale mune o saw.
Yes, we all know the intellectual capacity of Honorable Halifa Sallah and the hard stand of Honorable Sidia Jatta. These are well-known politicians in the country.
Mbeye molu la londo yiriko ni la lodula lonne menia lonko wala keta Honorable Halifa Sallah ti aning Honorable Sidia Jatta menia lonko wulu mu mo bunyari nguleti nyimbanko kang politiko la karola.
And they refused to budge to the orders of the newly formed government to stop publications.
Andu balanta pour que sojar man sakunda la wakangola pour isi abula pour que kibar kayto lo dada balanta wala.
That obviously led to their arrest.
Bu dalilo le ya sabu itate muta.
And due to the fact that they had a large support,
the
courthouse is always full whenever the case is coming up. Capacity.
And
the police had to come in to secure and maintain law and order in the environment. Because everyone was interested in seeing the proceedings in those days.
And how did the case progress?
It was a difficult case, to be sincere, because despite the constitutional right of both Honorable Sidia and Honorable Halifa Sallah,
Bankola nyanto aninna bankola constitutional nyanto mendi Honorable Khalifa Salala and Honorable Sidia Jatta o nyanto be lori nyawnyandi
to engage a lawyer, a legal practitioner of their own choice.
Ruka lawyer nyini wala loi do kula me ya lonko etelu fongolo be la fila menna.
They choose to defend themselves.
Itelu mampare wala fongolo le lota purka itelu fongolo kalo ifaye.
And the proceedings then goes on a daily basis.
Andung akito nyinga kolu katama nung luolu ndinne.
And it takes a full day.
Andu akatilo mume obeleta.
So we were able to finish the trial within a month.
Ndunga kata hanfo karikili konole mga kito nyimbang.
I wasn't there for the trial. I think I came there only once or twice. On the first day, to just have a feel of what it was like in the courtroom. But what were the major challenges in the trial? For a very young magistrate, in a very young military government, and young in several aspects. The newness of the military government itself, and the youthfulness of the military rulers at the time.
Well, there was a lot of fear and tension in the atmosphere. Because the place is guarded by armed people, armed officers. And in a court of law, you're supposed to enjoy the maximum freedom, so that you will express yourself without any fear or favor. But when you look left and right and all over the place, you have officers around with weapons. It obviously makes you scared.
As magistrate, were you scared? Were you intimidated?
Well, sincerely, yes. I will be honest with you. Yes, because I was not used to that kind of environment.
Well, none of us was. This was the first time we had a military government.
Yes.
And certainly this was the first time we saw weapons all over the place.
Exactly, exactly.
But apart,
scary, yes.
Apart from that fear, the weapons around you, as a magistrate, how did things around you impact your work?
Yes, I was then guided by a very seasoned principal magistrate. And was always putting me through.
Who was that?
Ogajafo. Ogajafo is a Liberian. Liberian magistrate.
Ogajafo, was he Liberian or Nigerian? Ogajafo.
Ogajafo is a Liberian.
Ogajafo, but a Liberian.
It's a Liberian. Okay. And to be sincere, all she gave me was courage. She could have taken the case herself, but decided to shy away because of the nature of the case. The first high-profile case in the military regime, she chose to give it to a Gambian to hear the case rather than her doing it herself. Yeah, due to the intensity of the case, it did not take more than a month to conduct the trial.
amantambi karola purka kitindiro nin kito nyintamandi.
And another month to write the judgment. So within 2 weeks, I was able to dispose. 2 months, I was able to dispose.
And I karikilina fananta purka kulu safia atamata na lata nyame bitung ayanta karifula lela purka kunya nyimbe do ku kabang.
What was the outcome?
Just
for the historical record.
Yes. Although they were found guilty of the offenses charged,
Kito ye mutale tumirolula ye tumi menula.
I refused to pass custodial, in fact, a conviction on them.
Bari mbalanta.
Instead, I passed a suspended sentence. If they fail to stop their activities as instructed by the regime, and they appear before the court on the same or similar charges, then the suspended sentence will be handed down on them.
Essentially, strictly speaking, legally they were convicted but not sentenced. Given a custodial sentence.
Not sentenced, yes.
That appeared to have been a workable solution in such a terrible situation, where you have the constitution suspended and you have decrees ruling and certain fundamental rights were now up in the air and could be violated by the state without any recourse to any constitutional guarantees. For you to arrive at that balance, did you go through any form of interference?
No, not at the decision. Because then there was no interference with the system. It was thereafter, seeing that the decision did not go in their favor, but
of course there was a conviction, so that went in their favor. What about the decision was not in their favor or according to their expectation?
Yeah, like I said, there was a lot of fear and tension during the trial. So the expectation was these people were going to jail because they had defied the military regime. Yeah, but I sense that sending them to jail would have had severe consequences on the civic society. That led to my decision to balance the equation. I convicted them, but I gave them a suspended sentence.
Much to the chagrin of the military government, would you say?
Yes, certainly. Exactly.
And but nonetheless, you continue to work as a magistrate.
On the first sign of their dissatisfaction with that decision was my transfer from Banjul to Brikama Magistrates Court.
Soon after, how soon after the decision?
This judgment was in September, and in October ending, I was transferred to Brikama. 1 month after.
Kundo keta September le kono October karkilin rong yen sound de Brikama.
And it is your view that your transfer to Birkama was some form of punishment or expression of their disapproval?
Ambo itela mira loto wala nyindi ko transfer wala soundiro men ketela ka Banjul Magistrates Court ke tamba Birkama wo mu akoto mu nyina itela mira wala nyindi ko ye ko kuntu nyu nyame wala mandi toliye.
Yes, I will say yes to that, because the principal who was there before me
principal wala mnyaton ko membe jennu janninte bina.
Spent almost 2 years before I came there. From May to October, within a period of about 5 months, I was moved to another jurisdiction. Meaning that they don't want me to continue hearing cases that are coming forth.
And for how long have you served in Birkama?
I was in Brikama for 8 to 9 months. Until July the following year, that was in 1995.
For July asanaka me yalon ko wala 1995 sangoti.
I was transferred to Kanifing Magistrates Court.
Yen sawndi kannati Kanifing Kitir Bundala Magistrates Court.
Was that a regular transfer, or was that also a reaction to something you have done?
O transfer ni wasaundi receiver ni mukula de mealon ko adalina kula manfo fana mukula de mealon ka sujira ni mukula mealon ko walbe dumala.
Yes, certainly that was also as a result of a reaction.
Wo fana meya sabu kule keta meya lonko ya ayitel fanali o saundiro ke dalilo le kan.
Because there was a breaking in the court.
Breaking
and stealing.
Ye dinkirale kati ye dale te kadung kiti bundala kasunya rokije.
I was then the single magistrate running the whole of the West Coast region. And our exhibit store was full of drugs.
And
the walls of the courthouse was not cement but wooden planks.
Alun kiti bunda fangola ala sansambalo au balo amanke cement blokoti de amunta yirol lemu ye yirol le doku ke sansangotiji.
And there was no outer fence to secure the building.
Alun sansando mantara bantala mensi bunyi mbula tema ka tankandi.
That led to the breaking in the office. And all the drugs were stolen away. That led to my transfer.
And how about Kanifing Court?
Yes, I was in Kanifing Court. From 1995 to 1996.
1995 kata 1996.
And though there were many magistrates, but then we had Nigerian magistrates as our superiors. And that led to a lot of conflict in Kanifing. Between magistrates.
Why?
For the simple fact that I was the only professional Gambian among the magistrates. There were second-class magistrates who were not professionals. And
what you mean by that is you are the only lawyer who's been appointed as a magistrate. You're the only qualified Gambian lawyer who was appointed to the bench as a magistrate. Yes. But of course that time there was Musa Gassama, but proceed please.
Yeah, Gassama was in Brikama when I was moved. He took over from me in Brikama.
Gassama benum Brikama le between Briente sounding and Kanifing Musale kunte komota Brikama Musale sama.
We had Mr. Job
Mr. Job
and Mr. Bachili.
Mr. Bachili.
I was with them in Kanifing, and 2 other Nigerians who were the principal and the senior magistrates.
And the Nigerian kafula bije Mr. Job and Mr. Bachili kola o Nigerian fulolu wolemu magistrate kebaltinu.
We had shortage of office space.
Mankita office do kudula.
And there was only one vehicle for the whole court.
And
as a result, there was always a tug of war and push and pull about office space and about access to the vehicle.
And wotumo nyosaba katukela je wati office kuala ani womotola kuala.
And as a result?
Yes.
As a result?
Yes. Eventually, I got a scholarship, a Commonwealth scholarship, whilst in Kanifing to go for my postgraduate in Malta, and I went for my master's degree.
Bitu be kola lemu nata karang silo do soto. Mbe scholarship me alonko nyantata la karang la Malta banko kang puru katana postgraduate wolem makamata londi lafa kola puru katawo karang ke Malta banko kang.
And I came back in 1997.
In 1997 sangokono.
And I went to Basse Magistrates Court.
Tumolon tata Basse la magistrate kiti bunda.
As a first-class magistrate.
And tumo ngalo dula mensuto wole magistrate first class me ya lonko wole magistrate oti membe lodula follow santo pala santo konyinto.
Your stay in Basse was short-lived. Correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
What happened?
Well, that's where I experienced the real impact of the regime. Then we had the July 22nd movement as well.
Nga sojar mansa kunda fangola kulu kalangolong katotumo nyin July 22nd funding ke nyin July 22nd kafo ya londi.
What was this July 22nd movement?
Muna munyi July 22nd movement onyi muna maati.
This was a parallel administration, not governmental, I will call it non-governmental.
Bari nyim fanan kafo mo afaye kafuleti menu be loring ifaye ko man sakunda la moyti mba fala manka imandara man sakunda kono de bari telefona lu lonya ni tanya abele ko ifansu man sakunda lem.
And then they were running parallel administration with the government.
Andu tumo ka kolu tamandi nyamin amunta be mararo tamandi kanne ko man sakunda fanambala mararo tamandi kanyamin amunta be temberinne ibitaka nyola.
And Mr. Witness, what you have just said is very serious. You suggesting to us that there was a government running parallel to the de facto and de jure government. Or would you say that the July 22nd movement was the de facto government and the lawfully elected government of Yahya Jammeh was the parallel, was the de jure government? Is that what you're saying?
July 22nd kafo nyi membe loren wala masakundari ya jamme me alanko ala July 22nd movement on ye carte fay men wala masakundari me alanko karafar masakundala.
Yes, I will agree with that because of what was happening.
Ha mbesonela okumakangola le katu kuolle be kekanu me ya sabu mbesonela kumwa.
But before that, what was this July 22nd movement? How did it come about, if you can tell?
Janni wo nyin July 22nd ning ayatara yalo nyin July 22nd movement kafo nying akeno ra nyaade le fo alonde nota nyaara londe sota ko ba.
All right. The July 22nd, for all those who were in the jurisdiction in the Gambia,
utumo July 22nd la okafo pour molu men bebe Gambia banko kan utumo
all know that it was headed by the late Baba Job.
Mo be ya lonko me ya nyaton kaya nungutumo wole mtala Baba Jobti.
And because of his training in Libya,
katu ateye kolu karanu Libya le londo babulu,
he was feared.
Molu silatala.
And what kind of training?
Well, I cannot say for certainty, but what I I'm made to understand was paramilitary training.
Nta fono la ka londi la bari nata men fahamu akwo kono wala nyinti ay kule karang me ya lonko anin sojariya do ko be dendi nyo balale.
Would you say that this July 22nd movement was a group of young men and women who tried to promote the objectives of the APRC at the time, that is, and tried to strengthen they tried to strengthen, or how would I call it, to secure what they termed or believed to be the gains of the July 22nd coup d'etat, or revolution as they would call it.
In July 22nd kafo nyimu kaflet me yalon ko yalondi dalilo men kam wolam nyinti ko kidiri mandiro ke APRC lat mansa kundala ko e kafo nyamen do ko woli wala gagnewol ke yiri wala karona wan ananyongol la karola pour ka kidi mandro ke wala ko.
Yeah, I'll agree with that, but I will just add the fact that it was not only supporting and strengthening the then APRC government. But it is also doing so with intimidation.
Iba tamandi kanyaming iba nin silandiro le tamandi kampurka molu kijote
And the use of force.
andu iba nin force ole tamandi kan
Whatever they decide,
itelie kawo kalondi
you dare not say no.
ite hanyila kabalango kangola.
You have to agree, otherwise there will be consequences.
Ibe sonne la kangola la nionte kubela la kulwonoto membe kala kukolengoti.
Could you give us examples to justify your claim?
Fo esi misalo dinno na la bang memba ila kuma kanyin tonya endila.
Yes, I had this experience in Basse. That's where we stopped.
Nganying ko londo soto basele nlotan munjele.
Whilst I was posted in Basse,
Wato membedo ko la Basse,
I had a lot of issues with this July 22nd.
Ku jamale tambitan ninyi July 22nd molu tema.
Because they formed themselves in such a way, it's like a government within a government.
Katu ye kolu londi nyame ngutumo abele ko mansakunda be mansakunda kono.
They have a regional chairman.
Ye tundu sirantio soto.
They have a divisional chairman.
Ye banku sirantio soto me yalon ko wolle be dinkiral to kata.
They have district chairpersons.
Andu dinkiralu men yalon ko maralo bundalu be sembentu yari ndaming ye sirantio lu soto wul fanalto.
And they had ordinary members called the July 22nd members.
Andu ye kafudingulu fanalu soto. July 22nd members, well, July 22nd kafudingul.
And who was the chief patron?
Jumala muila dépense la nyaron ko
Ila kuye kafo kundonko.
Well, the chief patron then was the late Babajo.
Ila wa kafo kundonko tembo wale mtala Babajo.
And in Basse we had this regional chairman called, he's also late, Alhaji Banta Kamara.
Andum Basse fanang ngatundu chairman sotoje tala Banta Kamara.
And a regional chairman also called, he's also late, Maudo Gari.
Andum ngatundu chairman do fanan soto fanam bantale kafo me Maudo Gari.
And these two came in conflict with the law.
Andu nyimmo fulolu ni lua nata wali.
Because there was a case at the court, a case of murder.
Kiti sotontanum kiti bundala me yalon ko mofa kito lemu.
And the
Who killed who?
Jumale Jumafa.
Well, if I refer to the notes, I will be able to remember the names, but it's a Senegalese against a Gambian. The Gambian was a victim.
Ninga kay tolu jube mbebe tolu lonno la le bari koñin keta nyamin Senegalin konin Gambian ko le dunta nyola adun koñin kono Gambian ko le nata fa.
And the said Maudo Gari,
Ni mem ngato fote ni Maudo Gari,
who was July 22nd chairman,
mem musirantio ti July 22nd kafo
was
kono.
a sortie to the Senegalese.
Atelo moti mem mulo lati mene ni Senegalin ko sankaya.
Sortie for bail.
For bail.
Law
For his
ka
bail
bail.
at the police station.
Pour ka bail ka findindi police station.
Sarengai police station.
Akatan Sarengai police station abe mutarin nundame.
When I came across this file in my office,
Bringa nyim file bulimbulo lata kang na office okono.
I inquired from the police prosecutors
Nyinin karo ke police lula molu bulumenu be kito lukunna.
why the file is empty. It's just the bail bond in the file, no charge sheet.
Muna na file nyimbe kolo yaring bail kaito nyindrone bije bari tumir kaiti kilinte file nyinkono.
Well, I can recall the prosecutor who I asked was Sergeant Gay.
Nga police kitindir la me nyinin ka ning hakilo ba kay ka fole Sergeant Gay.
And his immediate response was, this file has been lying here for the past 2 to 3 years.
Akonya nyim file be larin jang nyi sanji fula katafo sanji sabatambila fankono.
But there is nothing they can do about it.
Bari telu manko kundino akonyinto manku tamandino je.
And I asked why.
Nga nyinin ka muna yo sabu.
He said then there was a Nigerian magistrate in Basse.
Akotumo Nigeria magistrate lebe num Basse.
And he was scared of proceeding with that file.
Andu Nigeria no ate silatale num pour ka o kito nyin tamandi
I can
o faylo la
recall
ko.
the name of the magistrate is called Inyang.
Adu magistrate nyi wo tembo Nigeria no ka fayne Inyang.
And I said, but why should the file be here and nothing is done about the file?
Nka muna na silam faylo be lari njang kuo kundi manna tama faylo la karola.
Said, well, the people involved in the case are very powerful people.
Na tafo nye molu meni alon ko lebe nyin kodi amo kono mo sembe ma balle mo woltide.
I asked how,
Nka e nyadi.
and then he explained.
Na ta ko satanye.
I said,
What did he explain?
ay mona sate.
well, his explanation is that the sorties in that case
Atela sataro munyeti ko meni e monyi sankaya.
are not only the July 22nd chairman,
Manke ko nyin damma mu ko July 22 ka fola sirantiolem.
but even a district chief
Andun tundu sefole mu amari o fanandi.
in Woolly East.
Wulli tilibola.
And
Kandakase, the late Kandakase Juara, who was the chief.
Wole mutala kanda kase juarati atelo msefoti nuotumo.
So for those reasons, the magistrate is not interested in pursuing the case.
Udali lolle ya sabu o Nigerian magistrate o membije num amalla fi purka dabula ko nyinto amankata amandi.
I picked up the file and invited the sorties to come to court.
Failo nyinta meni ya sankaya ngawlu kumandi ko na kiti bundala.
And invited the police prosecutors to at least file a charge in the file.
Nga police la kiti ndirlalu fanalu kumandi ko ye tumir kaito dada ya dundi failo nyinkono.
But the accused person is outside the jurisdiction in Senegal.
Bari meya lonko atele keta moti nyanta men kiti ndila wo fango fintita la te banko kan wotuma be Senegal.
But because the accused is outside the jurisdiction, we cannot make headway.
Katu men tumi wera te be banko e bantala be Senegal man tano nyato.
So the only option was to call the sorties to go and get the accused person and bring him before the court.
Nse men keno wotumo wala men ya sankaya menu lotai nga wulu kumandi ye fere ke ye tamari kamanang ya nati ka londi luwa nyati lungula.
Well, I tried, they tried. First time they came, they couldn't find him.
Follow itata ye fero lutamandi bari imuruta nang imamari jeno.
I gave them a second chance to go and find him more, another 2 weeks.
Nata lokum fula dila kotake puruisi muru fula njanke katanyi mari la kojibe.
And still they cannot find the accused person.
Adung hanimbi imamari je.
So the only option available was forfeiture. Forfeiture of the bail bond.
Wolem nyinti mse menkeno nyinti wolem bail kango melota nung purusilang ka fo wala kaubai.
And that led to a big conflict between myself as a magistrate and the July 22nd.
Andung wale nata ke fitina bati nte kungoning nyin July 22nd ka fo la molu tema.
at least as far as you're concerned, this was your second test, your second confrontation with Yaya Jammeh's government.
Munde te ila londo to nyina mu ila sinya fulanjango timme ya lonko ini Yaya Jammeh mansakunda e sey nyolo soto.
Yeah, exactly, but this time at a more difficult level.
Wala mfulanjango te bari nyin silo nyina mu koti me ya lonko wala koleyata follow nyindi.
I can guess who won, but I'll have to ask the question.
Yes.
Sa fonon kum fela jumala ganyeta bari fonsi nyininka ro nyininka.
Yes.
What happened?
Munakira.
When I started the forfeiture proceedings,
Bringa kolu damuta puru kito bon nyinka akol nyin yelamandi.
at first they refused to pay.
Follow to ibalanta le pur ka jo.
The regional chairman, late Banta Kamara,
Tundu sirantio nyin tala banta kamara.
insisted that that man cannot be found and so the case should be closed.
Balanta nyine kanko meye mo fake imajeno woto nyanta kito nyim burukalale.
And then the report came from Basse to the State House.
Adun kibaro na tabase kana kabonang State House.
Then the press secretary at the State House was also from the URR. It's called Batata Juara.
Andu wotu mo membe kibaro bunda la State House o tembo ate fango kungo bota base banko le kang ika fae Batata Juara.
And through them, they were able to file reports at the court through the master of the High Court.
Andu itelu la karola ya katano ka kibaro ludundi kiti bunda ba nyinto High Court purunyin kamala isi kuota mandini njela.
So that they can get me transferred from Basse.
Puru isente saundi kambondi base.
And that was a real difficult test.
Andu waketa kotobor kolamoti.
Because I also insisted on forfeiting the bond to the state.
Ndefana mbalanta kango nyine kanko wo kitindir bon e wo bel bon nying pour ka tamandi man sakunda nyin toya la ko sarto ya fo nyami.
But whilst on the proceedings,
Bari mba ko tamandi kantu momeng
I received the transfer from the High Court.
nga kaito soto me ya aitandina ko yen saundi le kitibunda ba fangola kango kang.
Through the governor's office,
Ya tambindi ning safe commander wala official to governor.
that I have been transferred to Banjul Magistrates Court.
Yen saundi le sai mbita banjul kitimdir bunda lela.
And I insisted.
Animbi mfanam balanta.
And obviously, there were administrative consequences.
Tatu watembo mara lola karola fanan tukung lusoton tamenu wulita.
How did you insist?
Ita balanta nyadi le.
Yeah, I insisted based on the fact that I moved to Basse with my family.
Lota nyina kanko ntenin na dimbaya lu bele sauntanan kana base.
With 2 school-going children.
Dindim fula bembulu menu bita kankaram bungoto.
And in the middle of the year,
Andun sangot tema fanang.
I cannot get transferred
Iten saundinola.
and leave the children behind.
Kau dindimulu tungkoma.
And at the same time, I cannot move them because it's going to affect their academics.
Andun wo tembo nte ulu fongolu kungo fanan saundinola.
So we
Kato
ended-
abela karango nasindilale.
We ended up at the office of the Chief Justice. Then Algali was the Chief Justice.
Nlabanta Chief Justice la official rotumo algali walem Chief Justice.
We had 3 sittings with the CJ, the then CJ,
Na sinya sabale soto siwo ningo tumo CJ.
with the master of the High Court.
Ani master member High Court no walem.
But on each
Who was
sitting,
that at the time?
Jumala mu mastatin wo wato la.
then it was Usman Jammeh.
Tumo eka famari en Usman Jammeh.
But on each sitting,
Bari na siwo si ben wo ben.
there's a different complaint.
Kukutale ka fintije memu wasi dati.
It's all geared towards getting me from Basse.
Bari ya bebe lorin kukilingole noma pour kante bondi base.
By who?
Kabona juma kan.
From the then July 22nd, that's the late Banta Kamara and Maudo Gari himself.
Wala July 22nd la unyato nkulu la utundu siranti ulu. Wala be lorin nyinko kandrong banta kamara aningari pour kante bondi base.
They succeeded to an extent. It nearly led to my termination.
Silo sotole hanfo akwenyi njamfata. Andun domandim fango abenado ko tinyala.
But it eventually led to my termination when I was in the Banjul Magistrates Court, when I was eventually moved with the use of force.
Bari inata force ole ke kan saundi na mbanyunu magistrate kiti bundala butu kola lo minata na do ko burka.
How was force applied?
Forse o ye muna fan nim forse wala kan nyadi le.
Well, my official vehicle was the first that was taken away from me.
Na do kura moto yewole folo tambulu.
And then I applied for leave.
Na safero ke pour leave o dinna.
Leave was granted.
Isonta ye leave o dinna.
Before my return,
another
magistrate, B.Y. Kamara, was posted to replace me in Basse.
The magistrate donati B.Y. Kamara pro esa intela palaso to Basse.
So when I came back from leave, I wanted to resume in Basse. But Mr. Kamara, B.Y. Kamara, he is also late. He was given instructions not to move from the quarters and not to hand over the vehicle. So I had no choice but to comply.
What year was this?
This was all in 1997.
And
in 1998 you were sacked. What precipitated that?
It's the extension of the same case from Basse. Because when I was transferred to Banjul Magistrates Court, the same group of July 22nd orchestrated a plan by filing different types of complaints and sent it all to the master, then Master Usman Jame.
And
And whilst I was sitting in Banjul Magistrates Court, I just received a suspension letter even before I was heard, and then asked to reply to those allegations within 1 month. And that suspension went on for 14 months.
And
then I was eventually terminated.
What were the allegations against you? If you choose to tell.
Yes, of course. This is no secret. Because the first is abuse of official vehicle. They said I use it privately.
Iko nka do kuram moto officer la moto iko nka uleta nka mfamuna fangala amunta ngala silo tinya jele foloto.
And secondly, there was a complaint of damaging the vehicle that was assigned to me. And thirdly, I was accused of traveling outside the jurisdiction without leave from the PMO.
Andu inatafo fananta matale kabutundo kambedo kola damen andu wayatara mankangota do kubunda nyaton kobulu menu marta masakunda do kula lubela ka fole PMO.
And then financial complaints such as receiving court fines.
Andu inatana fuluko fananda bulije ko bitun alamani rolu menu ka kekiti bunda la ka folu kadunte bulule.
And then conversion of the same.
Conversion
of the fines, I mean, changing them to your own use.
Essentially
misappropriation of funds. Exactly. Those were the basic complaints. But they are all in writing, and I've responded to those allegations. And I've proven them all to be false. But due to the then power of the July 22nd, I eventually got terminated instead of getting back to work.
But then, what did you do after you left the employment of the government?
Well, before that, I really wanted to make a case in the courts. First, with the unlawful suspension.
Follow ye nadu ko den ka londi follow me yalon ka ni luwa mantanyola.
I fully believe that the decision to suspend me from my work was unfair.
Katungani mutako yo watu menta wonya kamfonyondi do ko la ka fo yenna do ko denne follow amantiling.
My father advised me not to do so because it can lead to consequences as well.
Mfama nata yamare akonye kana woke.
So I waited until my termination. I wanted to file another claim for unlawful termination. But my father insisted that I should not do so. And that's how I started private practice since 1998.
In the meantime, what happened to the case against Kande Kase? Was it Kande Kase Juara and Maudo Ngari?
Muna narana ke Kande Kase Juara and Maudo Ngari la case ni narana la nyadi le.
I started forfeiting the bond because the bond then, the bail bond was $20,000 each.
Nada mutanumpurka wasarto nyin tamandikatu itelukumfulo kuluwe kiling ni nyanta dalasi ulimu anne jola nung wasanka yaro kama.
And I gave them time to pay.
Andunga watu dila puri yo kodojo.
They made the first payment of $5,000 each, which was $10,000. And they made a second payment of $5,000 each, making $20,000. And then they filed another report that money was also converted to my own use. And that was another case before Justice Algali. But when I produced the receipts, payment to the Treasury, at the Basse Governor's Office, CJ asked me to go back to continue with my job. It was then that I got my transfer 3 days after. I could not complete the case. I left it pending.
Do you know what was the ultimate outcome?
Well, since I left Basse, I didn't follow up from BY Camara to know if the case has been completed.
So then you went into private practice.
Exactly, yes.
And during your long career of a private practitioner, you have come across egregious rights violations. Can you tell us about them? Starting with the Ahmad Sow case.
Yes, just like you rightly said, I had a lot of experience with rights violations. Because starting with the case of the IGP versus Amadi Sow, this is an illiterate man who is doing cattle business.
Resident where?
In Nyomi. I can't recall the name of his village, but in Nyomi. And he used to supply cattle to the president and gets paid for it.
Which president are you
President Juma?
The former president, Yaya Jammeh. But after 2 successful transactions, The third time,
Sinya sabanjang.
according to my client,
Ko nakiliano ya fanya nyami.
the president gave some money up to 1.3 or 4 million, but it's more than $1 million.
President koto na ata kodo mendundi aseke million killing wuli keme saba wala wo mafang wala bara siata million killing tile dal.
And gave it to his direct aides.
Di ala doku lalle la meni alon koy bate fango bala doku wala.
He mentioned two names, Solo Bojang and Pa Bojang.
Mofla le tofo Solo Bojang nim Pa Bojang.
But then the money never reached my client.
Bari kodo nyim man na futan na kiliano ma.
After a while,
tambita.
President asked for the cattle.
President nata nyinin karo ke onin sol la kwala.
And they said they paid the money to the accused.
Kadu iteli kodo di nunte la kiliano la.
And he failed to deliver the cattle.
Andunga manna nin solu nyili samba.
Would you say Hamadi Sow is from Ndofan?
Ndofan, exactly.
Hamadi Sow abota satel to ikafoda me Ndofan.
Ndofan,
Ndofan le fon, Ndofan le.
exactly. And this led to his arrest.
And dalilo le asabu itata muta.
And refusal to grant him bail.
Andu inata balang kwate bail.
But this was a case of either theft or fraud,
case le me alon ko sunya role waran don tapala yala
or obtaining by false pretenses.
waran don ka kuma ko soto mobulu ani nyala me alon ko ani am kuma soto
All of them were bailable offenses.
andu ñu be mu tumir le ning atare tumiro le imare ka yesamba kiti do nyata no nyantola muy kam pour ka bel dila.
I will not equate it to even a criminal offense.
Ntata hane afutandila kuto me alon ka asike kruya ku jawoti.
But even if you want to go the criminal angle,
Yes.
hanni ngadara ke jara ku jaw baro la ko to fannara.
and that is all based on the assumption that the allegations were true.
andu be ka sujini men wala mi di tumiro la me ya la mare kam foto nyaale fanam.
It could be obtaining by false pretenses or fraud or something like that.
Sikeno ko aya ya fengo soto mole bulu tapale yala waranto faniya kan waranto ananyol.
Of course, it could be a straightforward breach of contract.
Member
Failure to deliver.
member tilin na fanka fojo wala nyindi ko contrat ko wala kanna be mem tambeti tema wala nyindi ataboyta ala karo la pour ka timmandi.
But still on the criminal angle, it would have been a bailable offense.
Hanin kabi nina da kuja baro la karo la loi la karo la wa han kabi loi ya nyanto di la amari la pour ka bail.
Why was bail not granted?
Mune ya sabu man bail di amari la.
Yes. There were so many things that were happening
Kuja male be ke kanu wotumo.
behind the scenes.
Kolu koma.
I will say probably not even with the knowledge of the former president, Yahya Jammeh.
Nsafono fanko asekeno ya jamme membe president yala no wotumo amambu ko dolu fanglu kalama.
What were those?
Wala munti munku.
Now, in the instant case of Amadi Sow,
Amadi Sow atela kito nyin lanya la karola.
those who received the money
Kodo dita melnula.
and converted it to their own use
Inata kodo nyin ta ka ke fansu
alleged
hajul.
that it was Amadi Sow who received the money
Itelena ta foko ya kodo nyin di Amadi Sow lela.
and failed to deliver.
Ando Amadi manna ni solu nyuli samba.
The victims become the complainants.
Sayun mantoro lata menkan wale nata ke kalamir lati.
And
Rather,
Amadi,
the fraudsters became the accusers.
Apale la nyingol na ke molde mengera tumiri molde silang.
and I cannot say for certain whether the instruction for his arrest came from the president or from his aides, direct aides.
Ndafono la purka Amadi Sow muta akangom botan yaya fangle ya wala alawo molu mennu baye do kola wonya.
But the reason why he was refused bail was on executive orders, executive directives.
Bari dalilo me ya kendi ibalanta ko mota bella umu kanniti me ya lonko abota nyaton ko fangle la kangoda.
How do you know that?
Te wolo nyaadi.
From the police. I went there to secure his bail.
Police le yo fanya nde fango kumule tata je purka bail.
But there was no way that he could be granted bail. He was under investigation for more than 1 month.
silaman soto no nyabe nyasi o nyama pour ka bel adu akisikisiro tatale fo karkili
and he was in custody.
Andu oduma bela mutokono.
And what do you mean when you said there were executive orders to not grant him bail?
Executive order, well, executive sango kango well.
Let's try to understand this executive order.
Executive order.
What was it and from where it emanated?
Executive orders.
What I was trying to say is that the orders that the police were saying that the complaint against the accused person, that is Amadi Sow, was an executive complaint from the executive.
Itel muka kuma kango memfo num poliso luka memfo ye memfo nying Amadi Sow makate belno la wulem nyintiko kuma kango bota dulal to memmo bankola kuntonkoti.
And who was that?
Wala mujo Martin.
Obviously, then it was President Yaya Jammeh. And there was no way that the police could grant him bail.
And what eventually happened?
He was finally charged after 6 weeks and taken to Banjul Magistrates Court, where I applied and he was granted court bail. But the witnesses, key witnesses in this case, refused to come to court. And those are this Solo Bojang and Pa Bojang. Those who were the complainants did not come to testify. Rather, they relied on police witnesses to convict.
But police witnesses can only talk about hearsay.
But police
This was exactly what happened. I can recall filing a summons for the said Solo Bojan to come to court as a defense witness, refused to answer to the summons. And the excuse always is because of his busy schedule.
Did you apply for bench warrant?
I did not go to that extent because of the implications.
What were the implications?
If you compel the attendance of a witness who is not willing to come to court, he becomes a hostile witness. So I let it go and proceeded and closed my case.
Well, there's a way out. You declare them hostile and you cross-examine them.
It's a nuclear
bomb. You are afraid that it will detonate on you.
That is the risk. It's risky. Not only that, I know that it was practically impossible for any officer to arrest these two, any of them, and bring them to the court.
In your view, what happened in that case? Was it justice or travesty of justice?
I'm coming to the end. At the judgment stage, the magistrate sensed that this is an innocent man. And during the proceedings, there were officers in plain clothes coming to monitor the proceedings and report back to the two officers who were the fraudsters.
Adu ningo molu botaje kata kibaro futandi wo tapale mo fulol lema.
The magistrate hinted the innocence of the accused person in his defense.
Magistrate ni nata nyin kalimo fo ala e dia molu kono kito kuntu nyala karola ko nyimari mantanake.
Do you recall what he said to hint, to suggest that this guy was innocent?
Yakilo samurano kitindir la nying ay muna fo nyin tumir mo nyin na kafo ko nyimmo mo senangolati among think.
Yes, when we filed summons on Solo to appear,
bring a samanir kaito da pour Solo ene danku.
We failed to secure his attendance.
Amanson na la kane danku.
The magistrate hinted that he is proceeding to his judgment.
Bitung magistrate nata nyimfuka be tenten na pour ka kito kuntu.
And will set free anyone who is innocent.
Andu momondi ya lonka mankuke ibe yabulalale.
And then when a day was fixed for the judgment, and sensing that the magistrate was going to acquit and discharge the accused person, he was fired a day before the judgment.
And do you believe that was coincidence or it was designed?
For itala mira rom kula me ya lonko atombeta feleban fo kula me ya lonko ya parendi akamale.
That was designed specially for that case.
Yo parendi o kito da manne kamma yo ke wala kamma.
Of the implication of the innocence of the accused person will bounce back on others who obviously will bear the brunt.
Datu ya jako ye nyimme mutateng ninga natake moti ye membula ku aseneata nataje ko amankuke. Who
signed the dismissal letter?
I did not see the letter. But I can recall the magistrate calling me to come with my client to deliver the judgment before he leaves office. And unfortunately, it was not possible. Because of the fact that the accused person lives in the North Bank. And it's difficult for him to get to the court. Next day, he packed his luggage and left the court. Finally, after 1 month, he appeared again back to the same court. And the first thing he did when he resumed office was to deliver the judgment. And this time convicted and sentenced the accused person to 4 years in prison.
What changed?
Obviously, within the 1 month period, something transpired that warranted a change from his acquittal to his conviction. But I was not privy to that. But I could sense that there was a change in circumstances due to the demeanor of the magistrate while delivering his judgment.
Loss of one's livelihood and regaining one's livelihood.
Exactly.
I
could see the change.
Who was that magistrate?
Then it was Magistrate Emmanuel Nkia. He started as a magistrate in the Banjul Magistrate Court before going to the High Court.
How did you feel when you saw that?
I knew automatically what happened, although I was not privy to it. Because the only condition for his return to office was to get the accused person convicted so that other people will be deemed to be innocent. Exactly.
But that would not be your only case, as at this time, wherein certain terrible things happen.
Tell
Tell us about the case of Njoguba, Bakari Jame, and Lamin Jobate.
Sorry, it's a typographical error. It's Pahari Jame, not Bakari Jame.
Pahari Jame?
It's Pahari Jame.
Savero le filoketa savero dale Pahari Jamelom Bakari Jamete.
This was a very difficult case.
You
can say one of the most difficult I have. Because I coincided with their appearance and arrangement before the Banjul Magistrates Court. No, arrangement. They were all kind of shocked and worried about what is going to happen to them. They are in court without any legal representation. I called Njogu aside. He explained to me that, well, he just finds himself in court. He did not have time to prepare for a lawyer. Because they just came to report at the police station and they were forwarded to the court. Because of my learned friends, Jobate and Pahari, I decided to represent them even before negotiating for any fee. But then the economic crime decree was like an offense that was not bailable. Economic crime. That was one of the charges against them. They were also charged for abuse of office. I did my level best to secure bail for them by the magistrate, then magistrate Lamin Bai. And for the first time, bail was granted by a magistrate in cases of economic crimes. But were
there any provisions in the economic crime decree which suggested that bail, the economic crime was not bailable? There's nothing in the decree which says that economic crime is not bailable. But those who are charged with that offense are mostly political offenders.
Tumiro fasonga ulukake moleti meni alonko politiko inoma sata wale la politiko
they are mostly remanded in custody.
Why do you think that was the case?
Sorry, I didn't get that.
Why do you think that was the case?
Then we had Nigerian magistrates as well at the Banjul Magistrates Court. And he was more senior than Magistrate Lamin Mbaye.
Anda tele la palaso be Magistrate Lamin Mbaye la palaso nyato nung.
And he takes most of the economic crime cases.
Andu nyim fankati nya kitolu jama bije be atele kawluta.
And sends all of them to Maltu.
Anda kebe samba mail tule ni momo ndilo ndia nyati lungula utumiro.
But this was the first economic crime case before your Wasip Mbaye.
Bari nyino mu fankati nya kiti follow ye melandi yo Wasip Mbaye nyati lungula.
Them bail.
Andu anata belo dila.
But the moment they step out of the court,
bari wato me ye singolo kiti bunda e banta.
They were all arrested again.
Ye be sainka muta jele kotake.
For the same or different offenses?
For
the same offenses.
But that would have amounted to contempt.
Certainly that is a contempt of court. But in those days, the state can never be held in contempt.
Well, you don't hold the state in contempt, but you can hold state officials in contempt.
It is a cumbersome process. Because first there must be a complaint against those who are in contempt. Because it's outside the court. This is why they are not arrested in court.
But of
Those who were committing the acts of contempt are legally advised. Because this is not the first time that accused persons are arrested outside the court. So when they were arrested on the same charges, this time on the allegation that they were transferring the case to the High Court.
That amounted to obstruction of the implementation of a court order.
Yes, certainly I know that is criminal because that's an interference with court processes, court orders. But then within a short time, whilst others are languishing in prison, waiting for their cases, the face appeared before the High Court. Remember, in 3 days. And then, the magistrate who was in Banjul Magistrate Kia, appointed as a judge, and was assigned to hear that case. I don't know whether it's coincidence or by design. Yeah,
but of course, the outcome could easily be predicted. But Mr. Chair, it's almost 5 o'clock. Let's leave it at that for today, and the witness would finish tomorrow. I hope, Mr. Mboge, that would not interfere with your schedule.
Yes.
There is no prospect. There is no likelihood that we can finish today.
Yeah, I believe that.
So give the commission some priority and appear tomorrow morning and finish your testimony.
I will advise myself when I leave here and see how...
Mr. Mboge, you cannot leave this to advise to yourself.
Absolutely.
You would act accordingly and do the necessary and inform all other courts that you have an appearance before the commission. I am sure they would understand.
No, it's not about appearing before the commission. It's about the arrangements for my program tomorrow.
Indeed.
Yes.
So make the necessary adjustment and commit to be here tomorrow morning at 9.
At 9?
At 9.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Is that fully confirmed, witness?
He would be much obliged,
I
Mr.
will be
Chair.
obliged,
Absolutely.
Mr. Chair. I'll be obliged to come to the commission.
Thank
and
you very
finish my
much
testimony.
for your attendance this afternoon. Thank you, Council. We will resume tomorrow, 10 o'clock sharp in the morning. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.